Have you been experiencing internal financial struggles triggered by economic concerns? Are you feeling capped at your current income level and can't seem to realize your financial potential? Energy healer Jean Border has created an emotional freedom technique, or EFT, tapping protocol to help calm the inner voice that keeps you stressed. Claim your free copy at jeanborder.com/vow and say goodbye to those financial blockages. Welcome to another episode of the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey podcast, Energy Work to Better Your Business, hosted by energy healer Jean Border. It's not just about dreaming, it's about making those dreams a practical reality. Subscribe to us via your favorite network by visiting our website at www.focusedpracticaldreamer.com. Now, get ready. Your journey to success starts here.
Hello, everyone. It's your host, Jean Border, with the Focused Practical Dreamer's Journey podcast, where we talk about anything energy and mindset to help you better your business. And I have a really cool special guest with me again today. But before I get there, I want to remind everyone that if you are having a little bit of stress in your life around money, and you'd like to make money decisions from a calm place instead of a reactive or fear-based place, grab the little freebie down in the show notes, jeanborder.com/vow, VOW. It's a little EFT tapping protocol that will help you calm down your nervous system before you make decisions that you don't want to come to regret later. Okay? So that's just jeanborder.com/vow, or click the link in the notes below. And now, on to my very special guest. This is Debi Kinney with Hello Coaching. Hi, Debi. How are you?
Hello. I'm wonderful today. How are you?
I am just great. The sun is shining. It's not too hot. It's not too cold. So that's always cool. I like to sit out and watch the birds come around and listen to them chirp. And that's how I spent my morning.
Oh, that's lovely. What a way to start.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about what you do.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for allowing me to come into this space and talk with you and your listeners. This is so exciting. I am Debi Kinney. I am owner of Hello Coaching. And what I do is I am a goals coach. So I help people who feel stuck or unsure of what their next step is. I help them get unstuck. And I really focus in on 4 primary areas. I focus on lifestyle, business, fitness, and health and nutrition. And I started in health and nutrition and then added life coaching and then fitness and then finally business. But the truth of the matter is a goal is a goal. And the pathway to get there, whether you're trying to gain muscle, work out more, build a business, it really is, you reverse engineer it the same way. And so I really settled into being a goals coach and am absolutely loving working with my clients, sharing information on social media and my website, just to help people become the best version of themselves. That's really my goal.
Before we get into it, what is your website?
My website is hellocoaching.info. And there's a plethora of information there. I am in the process of building it out. So there's going to be coming tools and resources. So keep checking back. And it's going to be a really great site for information, support, and connectivity.
Cool. So as you were talking, you know how you have conversations in your head while you're having a conversation with someone else? And you're talking about all the different areas that you focus on with goals, but really it's all the same pathway. And even though I'm not a goals coach with my clients, I end up talking about all of those areas, right? Mm-hmm. It's just amazing how in our world, everything is interconnected. If you have a habit that affects this part of your life, it's bleeding over into all the other parts of your life. And you use the same basis for decision making.
Correct. Absolutely.
We're not aware, we don't do it on purpose, but it sure does happen.
It sure does. We have our presets, our factory presets, and sometimes they work for us, and sometimes we have to do a little retooling to get them to work better for us.
So how do you work with clients? When you get a new client, what's one of the first things that you work on with them? How does that work?
Absolutely. So with my clients, and I work nationwide, the majority of my business is actually done online, virtually via Zooms, phone calls, things like that. But the first thing I actually do prior to a client becoming a client is I do a complimentary consultation. In a space like goals coaching in the areas that I shared, it's so imperative that we feel comfortable with each other, because when you start to go down this pathway of reaching for your goals, there's going to be a lot of shifts and a lot of changes, because if nothing changes, right? So you want to be working with someone that you enjoy working with, first and foremost, that you agree with their approach and their philosophies, that you feel like you can create a mutually beneficial relationship. So the very first step is I do a complimentary consultation where we kind of talk about where they're at, what their goals are, and if I'm the right person to get them there. And if I'm not, I will 100% be transparent about that. And if I can, I will always make a recommendation or a referral to someone else that perhaps can. After that, after we decide, that's kind of the courting phase, the dating phase. After we decide we want to go steady, the first approach is really getting on a longer Zoom or in a longer meeting. It's typically 30, 45 minutes where we're really dissecting what they shared with me on that consultation. And we're honing in on 1, 2, maybe 3 goals that they really want to achieve. And that's when the real work starts to happen. We start to reverse engineer the steps to get to these big goals. And we create smaller steps, a pathway, milestones along the way. It's so important to create wins for ourselves as we're working towards these bigger goals, because, sometimes these goals are achievable quickly, but sometimes they're not. If you want to start a business, sure, getting your business license or, buying a domain name, that's the simple, fast stuff. But really building a business out to the vision that you have in your head and sharing it with the world, that takes time. So that's one of the primary things that I work with my clients on first is, what are the big goals and what are the little steps that we can take along the way to create some wins, to create some momentum, because that's what's going to really push you forward. And then from there, depending on what aspect we're working on, it's typically a monthly call or Zoom or meeting. And then I'm doing weekly check-ins. And those are typically 10 minutes or less. Just for the added accountability. That's where a coach like me really brings the value, is the accountability piece. That's what really sets a lot of people apart is in reaching their goals, is hiring a coach. You get that outside expertise and perspective. You get that accountability piece that you just may not have on your own. That's the value. And then from there, weekly check-ins. I love inspirational, motivational quotes. So I'm typically once or twice a week sharing some insights or an article or a quote, just to create that dynamic, that perspective. And then we go from there. If a client, I had a client 2 weeks ago, she was really struggling, and we had done her call earlier in the week, and I got a text from her. She was really struggling. I just picked up the phone and I said, let's talk through this. Let's get you into a space. It's okay to be frustrated, and thank you for sharing. And I love transparency. Let's get you into a better space and a better mindset, because the mindset is really, as you know, what is going to drive that success, that behavior change, that habit change. And so I do a lot of work around mindset, because we can do a lot of planning and strategy, but if the mindset isn't there, the success will not be there. And so that's the space that I work with. And typically I'm working with clients I have a smaller goals coaching capsule that's a 30-day package. Typically, most of my clients are a 3-month, 6-month, or 12-month package, depending on the size of their goals. So that's typically how we work together.
Cool. Yeah, the working remote world has expanded so much of what's possible, right?
Yeah.
You can find the coach that fits you. And that's very important. I know we sometimes gloss over it, but I'm really glad that you brought that out. I was on a podcast with someone that I met a year or so ago, and we were talking about therapists, actually. So this applies across the board.
Yeah.
If you have a therapist, you go in and you meet them for the first time and you don't feel comfortable, that's not your person.
Correct.
Don't force yourself
Same.
to be in that world, because you're not going to see the results that you really hope to experience.
Yeah.
So finding the right person that fits you, that you feel comfortable with, that you will allow to push you in certain areas where you may not feel comfortable going, without actually trying it out, right? And having some support behind you. I think that's really important.
Or the person that will not only listen to you, but that will hear you. I can't even count how many of my clients will say, oh, I asked my doctor for these labs, or I brought this concern to my doctor and they kind of brushed it off. And my response is always, then find a new doctor. You got to advocate for yourself, but you've got to find a doctor that will advocate for and with you. And that applies, like you said, to coaches. That applies to business partners, accountants, like across the board. You want your team. If you're a solopreneur, an entrepreneur, your team is going to be that much more important, because you are going to rely on them so much more heavily than if, you're in a corporate office with a team of accountants and marketing staff that have been sort of pre-picked and are a part of the company vision. This is your vision. So you want to closely align in terms of philosophies and action and next steps and big picture goals with whoever it is that you're working with, from your coach to your doctor to your mentor and beyond.
So how did you get into this world? What made you decide to even get into this coaching world?
Oh my goodness. So I was a corporate hospitality professional for over 25 years. Prior to that, and that was straight out of college. Prior to that, I had gotten into the health and fitness world when I was 13 years old. I was actually teaching group fitness classes at the age of 13, which blows me away because my son is 13. I'm like, I can't even imagine him like going to the gym and teaching a class. I mean, he could, but it's just a different perspective now in hindsight. But I taught fitness and was really heavily involved in the health and fitness world all the way through my 20s, at the same time that I entered the corporate hospitality world. And it got to a certain point as I climbed that corporate ladder, I had to make a decision, because typically events are nights and weekends. Typically fitness classes are nights and weekends. And so I had to make a choice. Health and fitness was always a very, very important value to me through my entire life. But from a work perspective, I decided I wanted to be J-Lo and the wedding planner with the cute headset going behind the scenes at the weddings and the corporate events. And so that's the path I chose. And, fast forward 25 years, COVID hit, events shut down. I sit in Las Vegas. And so it was the first time the strip was ever completely shut down. It was wild to see. And there was just this piece of me that I really just wanted to help people. And I wanted to find something to do to give back in such a scary, uncertain time. And I was actually approached by someone else to become a coach. And it was just kind of right place, right time, and aligned again with what my beliefs are. So I decided to explore it. I started coaching, and kind of on the side, I kept my corporate job, didn't really know what was going to happen. And about 6 months later, I called my husband at work and I said, I think I can do this full time. I think I can leave events. Please check my math. You're the scientist and you're the math whiz, and I am not. But I think I can do this. And sure enough, we had a conversation that night, and I gave my notice at my corporate hospitality job soon thereafter. I started in the world of health coaching. And then I had some friends and other people reaching out to me and saying, health and nutrition aren't really on my radar right now, but with everything going on in the world, I really just want to clean up my lifestyle, my habits. I want to get more organized. I need to manage my time better. I'm really struggling with prioritizing what's important right now. So I added life coaching, life purpose coaching specifically to my repertoire. And then probably about 6 months, 9 months later, I really decided that I wanted to add personal training to the mix. It seemed like a good offset from the health side. And I didn't want to, though, go work in a gym. I really wanted to focus on specific markets where I could really have an impact. So I do personal train my clients who have nutrition packages, but specifically for personal training only, I work with people with special needs. I work with senior citizens, and I work with kids. Those three markets are dramatically underserved, and the impact I can have in 30 minutes once a week is so much greater than anything else that I do. So added personal training, and then it came full circle. And I had a couple of businesses reach out to me to say, you're this award-winning marketing strategist. You are in the corporate world. Like, will you come consult with us? And so I added that service back in. But like I said, I kind of felt a little bit lost, and this might be a little bit applicable to some of your listeners. I felt lost because, I've got health and nutrition and personal training and business. And it's like, gosh, there's so many things. How do I connect the dots here so that people understand it's all coming from the same perspective? And that's when goals coaching really presented itself to me, was like, okay, everyone that reaches out to me has goals. And what we do is we take the big goals, we reverse engineer them to create simple, strategic, actionable, accountable steps to get there. And whether you're trying to lose fat, gain muscle, build a business, it's all the same. And so that's the long answer of how I got into goals coaching, and I love every minute of it. I'm so grateful to have this lifestyle sort of on the back 40 of my life, because I started my new business at 45 years old. And so that was scary, and that was exciting. And that's one of the things I really like to share with people as they're exploring new career opportunities, is that it's never too late. You can do it at any age, side hustle, as they say, full time. If it's your passion and your purpose, do it.
Okay, so my head went totally off of business, but you say you work on the personal trainer side, you work with underserved communities such as children, seniors, and those with disabilities for half an hour a week. What does that look like? Is that on Zoom or is that at a gym? What is that?
That's at a gym. Those are in person. Those are my in-person appointments. So for example, people with special needs, I teach 2 classes once a week. One's a group fitness class, and it's filled with the most amazing humans who happen to have Down syndrome and autism and all kinds of other special abilities. And I teach a group class with them. And then I go straight into a gym right next door, and I do a personal training session for 4 individuals, 2 of whom are autistic, 3 of whom are blind. And so we work through their fitness, and it's Monday mornings, and it's the best way to start my week. They're so kind and just lovely. Senior citizens, that is a local service here in Vegas. I am a mobile trainer, so I go to these seniors' homes, because one of the things with senior citizens is that fitness and gyms, they seem inaccessible, and they get there and they don't maybe know what to do. And so it's uncomfortable, and it's this barrier. When movement can create so many longevity of life, it can create better mental state, it creates community. So there's so many benefits just to moving their body. So I go into seniors' homes, or I'll meet them at a community center, and I'll go with them and I'll show them, we'll go for a walk, or we'll work on the machines. And so that's how that works, is I go in person with them.
That's really cool.
It's so fun. It's beautiful. I love it.
Wow. Okay, so let's get back to the business stuff.
Okay.
But hey, it's my show. I can talk about what I want to talk about, right?
Exactly. And I'm so glad you asked, because it's the light of my week.
So if you had to pick a section of your business that you enjoy the most, what could that be?
That's a tough question. So I started with health and nutrition. So that is something, and where I started is not what I coach now. I started with a very specific program, which I still offer. But over the last 4 years, I've really seen a lot, heard a lot, experienced a lot. And health and nutrition really needs to be a customized experience. We all have different lifestyles, different priorities, different food allergies. And so I've really changed how I approach health and nutrition. There's so much information and misinformation out there. I've done the certifications. I've experienced it myself. I went through a physical transformation. I lost 26 pounds and 17% body fat. If you had looked at me, you never would have said like, oh, she needs to lose weight or anything. But it was about, I had a back injury. I was getting older. I wasn't feeling good. I have an autoimmune disease. So I've gone through it personally. I've studied it. I've worked with clients. And there is so much frustration and overwhelm out there with those topics. So my goal is really to take this big, scary scientific stuff and boil it down into really easy, approachable, not short-term diet, gimmicks, but really approachable lifestyle changes for longevity and better health practices. So for me, that's probably one of the most impactful parts of my coaching business, just because when that light bulb goes on and they realize most of my clients aren't eating enough, and they realize they don't have to kill themselves in the gym trying to do whatever they're trying to do. When that light bulb goes on, that's a really meaningful moment, because that is something that someone will carry with them for the rest of their days. On the cognitive side, the business consulting really gets me going. Like, I love to have conversations like this where they're dynamic and you're brainstorming and you're talking about different ways to market or to serve others. And so just from a intellectual standpoint, the business consulting. So probably those two are my two favorites for very, very different reasons.
And you brought up something that I think is really important, which is integrating all sides of yourself into what you do. Yeah. You mentioned, when I started my business, it looked like this, and now it's morphed. Well, I have that conversation with so many people. You think your business is you're going to start here and that's going to be your business. And then within the next year, it's kind of switched to a little bit of this, and now you're changing over to that. And I think it's important to recognize that your business is not a static item. Yeah. You grow, it grows. Your clientele changes, your products change, your focus changes. That's normal. That's okay. Mm-hmm. It's just important to pay attention and do it intentionally.
Absolutely. And the marketplace, they're going to tell you what they need from you. So having that ability to remain open and to explore what that looks like, I would not be as successful as I am today if I had really stayed in that health coaching space. I listened to what people were asking for. I got experience and skill set and education in it, but I had the foundation, and the fact that people were coming to me saying, hey, I don't want this, but I want that. Can you do it? Sure thing. Let's make it happen. Remaining open to the feedback from your customers, your potential clients, I think is such an important part of growing a business. Just like with your own evolution, we aren't the same people that we were 6 days ago, 6 weeks ago, 6 months ago, 6 years ago. If you're not changing and moving forward, you're moving backwards. And so that change and that evolution in body, mind, and spirit is really such an important piece of creating a successful business.
And as you were saying there, I was in my head is certainty and uncertainty. When we feel certain about what we're doing and we don't want to move because that's an uncertain place to head into, but then we get stuck and we don't grow. So with growth comes a little bit of uncertainty, and it becomes a balancing act. How much uncertainty can I handle before I just get too tense and I stop?
I heard Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love. She said on a podcast that I was listening to once, and I think this is in one of her other books, but she talked about uncertainty and fear, and how fear holds us back so much. And we're so scared to take that next step, or to look silly, or to whatever, X, Y, and Z. And she said, I drive the car. I'm at the driver's seat. I invite fear to sit in the passenger seat. I let it inform me on the routes that we should take or not take, but I don't let it make the decisions of where we're actually going or how we're going to get there. And I think that's so beautiful, because fear is there to protect us. Fear is there from our ancestry when it was protecting us from saber-toothed tigers and dangerous things. And so it's innate in us, and we're never going to get rid of it, nor do I think we should. Fear is there to go, hey, this feels weird. Pay attention. Think about this more. Is this something that is going to advance you and it's just scary because it's unknown? Or is this something that is really like a dead end? And so learning to really tap, and that's hard. It's not easy. It doesn't happen overnight, but really learning to tap into your fears and embrace uncertainty is a great skill set to develop as an entrepreneur.
I'm very big on personal power. Owning your personal power, taking it back if you've given it away, and being very conscious of when you are giving it away.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're sitting in a place of fear, you feel powerless.
Oh, yeah.
You have made a choice to allow this external item to shut you down, right?
Yeah.
So when you become aware, for me, awareness is the first step for any change that can possibly happen in your world. You become aware that there's something that bothers you or that you don't like or that you want to look differently or want to feel differently about, right? And then you can use your power to focus on what you want and use your power to make the decisions about what actions you will then take or not take. But it's your choice. You get to decide. You don't give your power away to some nebulous thing out there that really is just a thought in your head a lot of times. Now, sometimes there really is a danger out there.
Sure. Sure.
You get to decide, is that a danger to me or is that a danger that might exist if I do X, Y, or Z? And can I prepare for that and go around, skirt around the danger instead of hitting it head on?
Absolutely. And typically the fear-based thinking primarily comes from ego. How will this look? What's going to happen? What will people think of me? And so if you can sit down and ask yourself, if I remove ego, and I don't care about all those things, I care about how does this feel and look for me and where I'm trying to go. 9 times out of 10, you can eliminate the fear completely. You realize it's an outside observation or fear of judgment versus an actual uncertainty about the right step to take.
This is another conversation I recently had on another podcast I was on. We, a lot of times, don't live in what's actually happening around us. We live in the story we've created about what's going on around us.
Yes.
So we have the power. I'm back to personal power again. You get the power to choose, is that story true? Or am I slanting it to keep me safe or so I don't have to meet that new person or don't have to go out into that situation or what is the deal, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's where clear communication, first the awareness, like you said, the awareness of what's going on with that thought process is, but then also the communication. I think the power, how you take your power back is communication. Hey, I may have misunderstood this, but is your expectation X, Y, and Z? Were you delivering that to me on, A, B, C? This is what I thought our arrangement was. Did you have a different perspective? That communication to find clarity and find common ground is really important in terms of taking your power back. Because once you have clarity and it moves out of your head and into an actual dialogue or conversation, then you know the facts. Then you have the facts to make the right decisions that will help you make your next decision.
When you deal with people who come to you for goals, are the expectations problematic sometimes?
Sometimes, absolutely.
Realistic expectations or no?
Typically, it's usually one end of the spectrum or the other. Typically, it's like, oh, I want to lose 5 pounds. And it's like, easy peasy, what's holding you back? There's something else there. Or it's, I want to build this multi-million-dollar business and I want to be there in 3 weeks. And so a lot of my job is managing expectations. And that's why I offer the complimentary consultation. That's why we spend a lot of time building strategy together. I don't ever go to a Zoom or a first meeting with someone and say, oh, this is the plan that I use, so this is what you're going to follow. Because part of goals coaching and part of managing expectations is getting the buy-in from your partner, and whether that's a client or a business partner or a team member that you're going to be hiring, making sure that their vision and your process are really aligned and going in the same direction. It's a really important step. And so, yes, there are unreasonable expectations at times. And if that's the case when I'm coaching, I will 100% bring that up and say, we either need to modify the expectations, we need more time, or I'm not the right fit for you. Let me try to refer you to someone who might be. But I want to set everybody that I work with including myself, I want to set us up for success. And so managing those expectations and communicating about what that looks like is hugely important.
Another word that came up while you were speaking there is boundaries. Sometimes sometimes we don't have any boundaries at all. And a lot of times clients will say, oh yeah, I want to make $1 million. I'm like, well, have you ever made $1 million? Is that, why don't we start with doubling where you are right now? Because you have to, there are steps. You don't just start at the bottom of the escalator and jump to the top, right? You have to ride the ride. And sometimes it slows down and sometimes it speeds up. And sometimes you might go back a few steps. Sometimes it might break down and you have to figure out what's going on, right? But there can be this nebulous idea, oh, I want XYZ, when you don't even know what it feels like to have E, F, and G yet. Right? You won't jump to the end without going through the steps that are going to build the foundation that will keep you, I'm going to use the word safe.
Yes.
That will not have you sabotage your growth because it's so scary. You jump too far ahead without allowing yourself to find a new normal.
Right.
Normalize yourself to be comfortable in where you are and have steady growth. And it's not, it's not even typically. There are going to be huge jumps forward and then a little bit of slide backwards, right?
Absolutely.
But boundaries came up, that word. Talk to me about boundaries.
Boundaries are so important. And as a recovering people pleaser myself, I've had to work very hard at boundaries. You get so many resources. We work with time, we work with energy, we work with money. My number one resource is time. That is something that you can never get back. Energy, you can take a rest and sort of recuperate. Money, you can lose and gain. And time, once it is gone, it is gone. And one of the reasons, outside of really wanting to help other people when I launched my business, one of the reasons I really wanted to work for myself again, which this is my second business that I've had. My first one I started at the age of 25. It was still in event planning, loved it. When I moved to Vegas, dissolved it, started over out here. But I really wanted to build my own business because I was in a space where I was so resentful and so burnt out because I felt like I was bending over backwards for the companies I worked for, the clients that we served. And here was my son who was at this age, he was, 6, 7, 8, 9 at the time, this really, really critical age. And I felt like I was missing out. And so by setting my own boundaries with my time, I was able to be so much more present with him. And, boundaries are a tricky little game because the people that you need to set boundaries with are typically going to be the most outspoken about them. The ones that really respect who you are and the work you're doing are going to really be understanding of what your accessibility, availability, whatever those boundaries look like, whatever they are, the ones that need the boundaries the most are typically the ones that are going to push back. So for whatever that's worth and wherever that lands with your listeners, that's just a nugget that I've learned the hard way. And it's not a sign to change your boundaries. It's a sign to maybe look at that dynamic.
And that is so true. It's so true because there is sometimes an entitlement mentality that comes along with the people who are pushing back the hardest, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So as an entrepreneur, you have to decide what kind of client do I want to work with and what kind of client do I refer out to someone else and I just say no. Saying no can be really hard if you're just starting out, you're not sure that you're going to get all the money that you need to run your business, to support your lifestyle. It's very easy to get caught in the trap of saying yes to everybody and everything. Mm-hmm. But that might not necessarily be in your best interest or in the best interest of your company's growth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's one of the things we get to do as entrepreneurs is we get to surround ourselves with the people that we want to work with and for. And to your point before, with boundaries and with people wanting to, make $1 million overnight. We live in such a fast-paced world. We live in the world of influencers that have these like overnight millions from promoting Amazon products. And it's just not this reality that most of the general population live in. And so we're trying to build boundaries against unrealistic expectations with all kinds of human feelings and dynamics mixed in. I mean, it's a mixed bag for sure. But when you talk about taking your power back, one of the most powerful things that you can do is to say no. If it doesn't feel right, for whatever reason, the money, the interaction, if it doesn't feel right, the no is actually going to get you so much further than the yes would. So that's a really important piece of being an entrepreneur, taking your power back, building boundaries is really getting good at deciphering what is going to be in your best interest. Because if it's in your best interest as an entrepreneur, everything else is going to fall into place. If you're trying to square peg, round hole it, that is an uphill battle. And, speaking from experience, we all go through it. Not all of our decisions are going to be the perfect decision at the perfect time with the perfect client. That's how we learn, and that's how we grow, and that's how we build. But knowing that you have the power to say no is really an empowering point of reference to come from.
And that doesn't mean it's easy the first time, because like with a lot of things, you don't have that experience behind you. You may not know how to address that conversation with that potential client or that wannabe client or whatever. And that can be very uncomfortable. So we're back in the finding the balance between certainty and uncertainty, right?
Yep.
Be certain in your own mind that that's not in the best interest of your company or you. And so therefore, it's probably not in the best interest of that potential client. And so when you keep that in mind, that can, in some circumstances, help you maintain the balance of this is in everyone's best interest.
100%.
If I give them what I consider my best, then I shouldn't be taking their money.
Absolutely.
Take your money at somewhere else and get a better return on their investment, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
So you talked about finding out when you first meet with a client, a prospective client, you find out their big goal and then you work backwards to make it doable. So for me, that would be like creating an action plan. Is that sort of how you think of it?
Exactly right. Exactly right. And that sort of came to light. I had been health coaching for a couple of years, but again, I was in corporate hospitality producing thousands, $1 million events for the majority of my life. And what do you do when you plan a party? You think about what you want it to look like and feel like and all the fun things. And then you're like, okay, well, I want balloons, so I got to find a balloon person. And I want cake, so I got to find a cake person. It's the same thing. It's all just the reverse engineering, the action steps that you have to take to get to that end vision. So yes, you're absolutely right. We create action plans. One of my taglines is I connect inspiration and intention with action, because typically that's the missing piece. We can all talk with our besties or our significant others about like, I really want to go to Italy. I really want to be in the gym more, whatever it looks like, big or small. What's the missing piece? It's typically the action. We are so good at dreaming, most of us, and lamenting and wondering, but taking that and actually making that into a reality takes that action piece. So you're 100% right. It's all about the action.
So do you do it all hands-on with them, or do you give them homework? Because I give my clients, I have certain clients, I give them homework because they want to be involved in the process, right? They want to feel that empowerment. And then I have other clients who are just like, fix me,
Yes, absolutely. And it depends on the client. Typically, I start out, we create the plan together on that first call. We're checking in, and some clients do great with that. They've got that self-discipline, they've got that motivation, that drive, and they do great. There are some clients, I'm actually speaking with one today, who just needs more handholding, and that's okay too. But sometimes we kind of don't know what we don't know until we get into it. And the plan we started off with in month 1 for her, it's not going to work for her. It's not going to work for her lifestyle. And so we're meeting today to create a different plan. And there's going to be a little bit more handholding, and that's okay. I want to be as present and provide as much accountability for my clients as they need, within boundaries, of course. But also, I want to empower them to try to do it on their own first. But I'm like that safety net. If it's not working and they need a little bit more, I got you, because I am here to help you succeed.
Cool. How do clients find you?
So clients typically find me on social media, Facebook and Instagram. On Instagram, I'm at Coach Debi Kinney. My Debi is spelled weird. It's DEBI, but at Coach Debi Kinney. The most direct place to go is my website. It's hellocoaching.info. And that's typically where I align. And on my website, you can schedule a complimentary consultation with me, a meeting, learn more, all kinds of good stuff.
Cool. And here's another question. How long do you work with your clients?
So it depends on what their goals are. I do offer a 30-day goal coaching capsule where we're doing a preliminary Zoom. We're doing, and we're creating the plan that they are going after. We're doing a midway check through, and then we're doing a wrap up with next steps for them to follow on their own. That's really for people who are interested in coaching, but they're scared to make the investment. They've never worked with a coach before, and they just want to know what that feels like, what the dynamic is. That's really like my entry level. And then I typically will do a 3, 6, or 12-month package with my my more long-term clients who have bigger goals, to provide. Changes don't happen. And I've said this for years when I was in the corporate world. When I hired someone, when I implemented a new marketing plan, when I implemented a new strategy, it doesn't happen overnight. It typically takes 3 to 6 months. And if you think back to any jobs you've ever done, it takes about 3 to 6 months to really integrate and get comfortable in your role and the expectations. The same thing goes for reaching your goals. So I start with 3 months, and then I go to 6 months and 12 months, depending on how many goals there are that we want to work on, and what the priority level is for them.
So if we go to your nutrition coaching, how long do people typically work with you? Is that like a year-long thing to get their nutrition down?
So I typically will start with 3 months for my nutrition coaching clients. What I find with nutrition is I can debunk the science. I can give them a plan, but there is a lot of deep-rooted stuff, habits, emotions, things like that, that take a little bit longer to work through. And there's going to be some people who are ready to tackle those and maybe have the help of not just myself, but maybe a therapist, or maybe I just have that discipline and are ready to make those changes. I actually have worked with clients for over a year on nutrition coaching, because as they progress, their goals change and they want to, lose fat, then they want to gain muscle, then they want to optimize, then they want to supplement. And so as their goals change, I continue to work with them. But typically with nutrition, I will start at 3 months, and that is the package I will offer, because that gives us a really good idea of how invested they want to be and how many changes they're not only able, because ability is really irrelevant in that space, it's how many changes they are willing to commit to.
And that takes us back to mindset.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is an overarching issue no matter what your goal is, right?
Yes. Mindset is incredibly important. And it is something that I get a little woo-woo with my clients, with the ones that are accepting of it. But it is one of the biggest pieces, because I tell my son this all the time: whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right.
Exactly.
And even though, most people that come to me, they've tried all the diets, they've tried all the crash things, they've done the keto and the carnivore and all the things, and it doesn't work. But when you really dive a little deeper, it isn't the plan that doesn't work. It might be the person that's not doing the work. And that work will typically start in the mindset. Will this or won't this work for me? Will I commit or won't I commit? And it just becomes a process where there's a lot of clients where I will literally say to them, I know you've gone through all these different programs. I need you to borrow my belief until you start to see the results and believe it yourself. But to borrow my belief, we've created this plan together. I need you to take those steps so that you can actually go through the process of learning and changing and feeling. But again, it all comes down to mindset, because if you are going into any space in a negative, this won't work, I can't do it, you're right. And so I do a lot of, like I said, I love quotes. So I do a lot of sending of positive affirmations and sharing quotes. I encourage most of my clients to, whatever toots their horn, meditate, journal, read affirmations, pick your poison, but do it every day. The change and the transformation that positive reinforcement creates in one's mindset and one's actions is astronomical. And again, I learned this the hard way on my own journey. I have changed physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, so much, but that's because of doing the time and putting in the work and creating the practices that take me to the place or create the identity that I want to put out to the world, but that I also want to live with. It's such a nicer place to live when I'm in a positive headspace.
When you say woo-woo, is that the whole journaling stuff? Because I live in the woo world, so.
Yes. And I actually offer a workshop for retreats and corporate groups called From Woo to Why, because it really connects the woo of, so many people think, oh, I can't meditate. I've had so many people that I can't meditate. And I used to say the same thing. Meditation or journaling or saying affirmations out loud. That's what I refer to when I say the woo, because a lot of people just think it's fluff or it's silly or they feel silly or they don't believe in it. And so I take what are those things? And I break down the science of them and translate it again, the why, the action. How do you go from this space of really wanting to make some changes, really wanted to expand or shift your identity to this space? You've got to take action. And that's the why piece that I share with groups is how do you go into a space where you're feeling really motivated and inspired and you can implement it into your own life.
And I think that it's very common for us to get very excited about something and then not too much time goes by before we lose the excitement and it's just like, oh, I have to do that.
Exactly. We're creatures of comfort. We we revert back to our habits, our comfort zone, what we know, and it's just easier. It's not easy to wake up every day and meditate. It's not easy to make time to go to the gym. It's not easy to build a business with partners that you really adore and connect with. But the results are that's with anything in life, the results are so worth it. And so making that connection and growing out of those habits that maybe don't serve us anymore and building new ones that do, that's a huge part of the transformation process. And some of the woo comes with that.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we're just about at the end of our time together. Before we got on the call, you mentioned that you have a few resources that our listeners might be interested in. Could you talk about that?
Absolutely. So I do offer a complimentary consultation if you're curious about coaching in any of the areas. It's a way to meet me, to talk about what you're really inspired to do, that you want to create action steps for. I do have a free monthly newsletter that I send out. It goes out the first Friday of every month, and it includes a healthy recipe, it includes a book review, and it includes a goals-related article. Sometimes it's fitness or nutrition or business. I try to switch the focus, but that's free. And then I also have two PDFs that are free. One is a Life Binder checklist, and it is a way to collect, it is a process to collect all of your important documents that if there was an emergency or a fire and you had to grab one thing real quick and get out of the house or the office, it's this Life Binder. And so I give step-by-step instruction and lists on what to put into that, how often to update it, so on and so forth. And then I also have, I'm really passionate about, I love food. Like, I love food so much. I'm such a foodie. And a lot of people I've seen over the years are like, oh, well, if I want to lose fat or gain muscle, I can't enjoy my food anymore. And that is so opposite of how it should be. So I've gone on this mission to find comfort foods that I can replicate into healthier versions. So I have a 3-recipe booklet PDF that I can send to people. If they want to email me, it's hi@hellocoaching.info. I'm going through some website updates right now. And so the best way to get it is to email me. But it has these 3, one's chicken parm, a healthy chicken parm. It's so satisfying. It's so good. And fun fact, just a little insight for your readers, I actually have a full-length recipe book that I'm going to be, it's about 70% written, that I'll be creating and releasing as well. But this 3-recipe booklet is a great way just to see eating healthier can be delicious and quick and easy and fun. I don't have hours to spend in the kitchen. I want to eat well, and I want to have it be delicious and satisfying. And that's what these recipes deliver.
Cool.
Yeah, I get carried away. I get real excited about food.
No, but that's good. If you're not excited about your business, you shouldn't be in it.
True. Very true.
And so on that note, do you happen to have any final thoughts for our listeners?
You know, as I think back over our conversation and who your listeners are, one of the mottos that I live by is, if you can't find it, create it. And what I mean by that is, a couple of times in building my business, I'm like, man, I really wish I had this networking group that I could go to. And we could share business ideas and share connections and give referrals. And so I've actually created 2 different networking groups because I couldn't find one that fit the bill of what I was looking for. Similarly, I really wanted to learn to golf. As just being outside, as connecting with other women. So I created a monthly group where we go get golf lessons with the pro. It's all women. And we just go out once a month and hit the ball and get instruction for an hour. And so I say that to say, if you're looking for something that you can't find, chances are other people are looking for that too. And so by creating it and putting it out into the world, you're going to attract those people that are going to become a part of your tribe. And so I think it's just really important. Like, if you're looking for something and you can't find it, by all means, create it yourself and watch what you attract. It's really magical and beautiful.
Cool. I like that.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for being here. This has been really interesting. And then the whole goals coaching, I've not heard it explained quite the way you explained it. So that's really cool. And you're excited about it too. So that helps.
I love it. Yes.
So thank you for being here. I've really enjoyed our time together. And everybody who's interested, hellocoaching.info is her website, or there will be links just below. You can click on the links for all her social media presence. And for my listeners, I want to thank you once again for tuning in. As you do weekly, every Tuesday, we have a new episode coming out for you. I so appreciate you spending the time to be here with us. And until next time, this is your host, Jean Border, with the Focused Practical Dreamers Journey podcast.
We trust you enjoyed this episode of the Focused Practical Dreamers Journey podcast. Energy work to better your business, hosted by energy healer Jean Border. Remember to visit our website at www.focusedpracticaldreamer.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Focused Practical Dreamers Journey.